Hello, hello, and welcome to Lofo's Lounge. This is going to be episode 4, and as you guys see, we have a special guest, my dear friend and brother, Sonny. Sonny, welcome to Lofo's Lounge. You are the first and most special guest, not only on the podcast, but in my heart. Hello, how are you today?
Hey, Lofo. Good morning. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'm doing well.
Good, good. So brief little intro. Me and Sonny met on TikTok. Sonny hopped in my TikTok live, brought a lot of energy. I said, "Who is this guy? He is amazing." So Sonny, tell everybody who you are and just a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I go by Sonny D. I guess what I can certainly tell you about me is that that's I don't know. I'm an open book, I think. And so
That
for
you
me,
are.
yeah, I mean, it's just kind of crazy because everyone I think goes down this rabbit hole of TikTok, and we're all in tune with social media, and we're all kind of searching for something either entertaining or educational or something that moves your emotion. So for me, I guess how we met was just kind of like I'm always up for developing relationships with talented people. I'm a people person. I work for Amazon. I work in human resources. All of my careers have been, just as a brief background, have been within the people side of a business and learning how to work with people and deal with people. For me, it's all about changing people's lives. But grew up in small town Wisconsin. I was born in Maine, in Portland, Maine. Grew up in small
Way up there.
town. Yeah. Hey, the Northeast is really, as you know, it's a great part of the world.
Yes,
But yeah,
I'm learning,
so long
learning.
story short, grew up in Wisconsin, so I'm a cheesehead. About 15 years ago, I got transplanted here into Chicago for a job, working in higher education, working in
Chi-town.
retail.
Whoop.
Yes, and I love it. It's kind of like the big city of it's I don't know how to consider Chicago. It's like the big city of the Midwest. But long story short, I've been here for about 15 years, and just loving life, like doing all sorts of things, charity and philanthropy. And so when I came across TikTok, I'm just like, okay, what am I really looking for in social media? Am I looking for a hobby? Am I looking for this? Am I looking for that? So whatever it looks like. But all of my jobs and just relationships with people have been through the organized fun that I do. So, but yeah, so and here we are, just talking about all things great. Meeting you because, um, when I found out we had some mutual connections with different things, it was like, oh, that's awesome. Like, hey, there's this guy on TikTok. What is he all about? And then so I was really drawn to your mental health, positivity, and seeing kind of your story. And your story kind of just drew in and engaged me to say like, hey, if we can help people together, that's the thing. And so we've been friends since, even though we haven't met. So.
Soon to come, soon to come. So you did say an important word, and it's all about loving yourself, right? So that is our topic today, Sonny, is love. So we're just going to dive straight into it. And my first question for you is, have you ever been in love or loved somebody? Straight to it. Deep topics. Let's go.
Woo! Oh, we're getting vulnerable on a Saturday morning. I love it. Yeah. So for me, I will share this because I think I'm an open book and I'm very open about all things and all experiences.
Of
So
course.
I'll say when I was 12 and in Portage, Wisconsin, and playing around with the neighborhood kids, I kissed a girl and didn't like it. So
Not
that
Katy
age,
Perry?
so that yes, it was not the Katy Perry affirmation I think I was looking for. But I don't know if we're playing kick the can or something, just neighborhood kids, I like you're in a
Hmm.
small town and you're just kind of like, well, you're when you become a teenager, you're having all these types of different feelings. And at that
Oh,
time,
yeah.
for me, I was like, okay, hey, I kissed a girl and didn't like it. And
Hmm.
so love for me was a very different experience, because I'm just like, it's different and I don't know how to share it because it was not mainstream. It was not norm. So like how I had to deal with those feelings was completely different from what everyone assumed as a normal thing in terms of a heterosexual relationship or a straight relationship. And there's nothing wrong with that at all when you look at that perspective. So, and then for me, just kind of going from that experience, I, and I will tell you this, at 49 years of age, I'm still a virgin. So I think the biggest shock for most
So,
people,
in every aspect, or is it like kind of a virgin?
No, in every aspect.
In every okay, that is I will give you a round of applause. That is rare to find nowadays, Sonny.
Yeah. So that whole thing for me is just kind of like, have I dabbled in like, just kind of having deep conversation. I guess for me, it's how you define love, right? There's so
Hmm.
many different things that you could take that. And I think each person, that you come across and what that relationship looks like. Is it love? Is it, platonic? Is it friendship? I mean, there's so many different ways that we can define that. And, I think the biggest thing for me is just like, I like seeing love. Do I want it? Absolutely. What does that look like for me? I think that's the most challenging. I think we can always look at a lens from other people's relationships, like your parents' relationship or this or that, and have those different contexts. But at the end of the day, it's really kind of how to understand your feelings and emotions and what things kind of put you in a different perspective on saying like, okay, is this love? Is this, what type of relationship is this mentally the right thing? Is this physically? Is it spiritually? And I think people just need to define that. But for me at my age, I'm like, people find that cool. And then for me, it's just kind of like, okay, there are days like, gosh, I wish I had love. I wish I had, there are days where it's like, man, this would be so great if, but then at the end of the day, it's just like, hey, I'm counting on myself to figure out, what things I love. And so to me, I say, I'm married to my work. I'm married to my relationships and friendships. And that's kind of how I perceive love. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And here, I think we spend too much time judging that on others.
Yeah, we have like with society nowadays, there's such, especially like being born in the South, there's such a stigmatism of like, all right, we are in high school. This is where you should start meeting people. It's a small town. It's even in high school, we had people starting to like propose, starting to set that marriage standard. Because when we look at the small town, everybody's married at right when they're 21, the young age. They're buying their house. They're having their kids. Like people in my hometown are already on their second kid. I'm 27. So it's like when I think about myself, I'm like, wow, like, am I not into that, like that same group? Should I be having a kid? Should I be married? Like, what am I doing wrong? So it's like, wow, are we messing up? Are we living our life differently? And then I moved to New York and it's a whole different world. People are 40 and like just don't ever want to settle down. They want to keep living that fast paced lifestyle. So you kind of touched in on the next question I was going to ask. What is love in your definition?
I think for me, it's that's it's hard to say, and I'm glad you asked it because I think I'm still defining it, and I think that there is no age or boundary on how to describe it. For me, it's just really kind of taking. I'm very wear your heart on your sleeve. I'm a pretty sensitive guy. I'm emotional, and I don't think that's just because like, hey, like I identify with my sexual orientation being gay, but at the same token, too, there are so many things that I love. I love the opportunity to meet new people. I love watching talented people grow. I love music. I love my friends. I love my family. So I think for me, love is just really kind of something that's kind of internal that has to showcase something externally. Like you'll present love in your inside in one way, and then externally it could look completely different. I think it's something that I wish that I have unconditionally. If you're going to ask me, I'm like, hey, I want my future husband to be like white t-shirt, jeans on the back of a crotch rocket, like speeding. But then during the day, he's got the suit and tie, and he's wearing the briefcase and tradition, like that.
Just a
That
whole suit flip on the
right.
crotch rocket?
What's it's like, here's my type. Like during the day he makes money and stereotypically he's got a business and is sugar daddy, and then by night, I'm riding on the back of a crotch rocket, going to the gym, working out, having some fun. But I don't know. I guess for me, I'd ask you the same thing. What is your type? What does love look like? So but yeah, I think that really, if I really thought about the question, it's so complex and it has just so many ways and so many different layers. Like, and I'm sure probably your experience, say, hey, I came from small town Kentucky and now I am in New York, and that love looks completely different. And that's an okay thing,
Oh yeah.
right? I think that your experiences really shape you. Your situations really shape you. And yeah, it's very situational. I would say this: love needs to be it's very situational, but it has to be unconditional, that satisfies you in a way that gives you what you need.
So yeah, with that, like I was kind of blessed to say the least. So my last relationship, I know a lot about. We've talked about this personally, But
Hmm.
my last relationship kind of set a good standard. Not many people can say that they've had an ex that's like that was good and it ended good. Um, and I applaud her for that. I applaud our relationship for that. But we broke up. I think I touched into my ex with episode 2.
Yeah.
So it was a very good, clean ending. And I had a lot of great things that happened from that. So that kind of sets like a standard of like, okay, I have expectations now of what a good relationship looks like. So now that I dig and I'm going on dates and stuff now, I'm like, okay, how do I separate what I had from that good relationship? Because now I'm setting a standard of like, okay, am I comparing or am I just needy? And that's hard to like separate because like I'll see things and I'll be like, oh, my ex used to do that. Do I want that? Do I not want that? Do I want something different? I don't want to settle. So there's so many different questions that I always have now. But
Yes. So I guess let me ask you a question, Logan. Like,
oh,
there's that phrase of is it better to have loved and lost, or is it better to have never been loved at all?
ooh, that is a deep pondering question. All right, so love and lost or never loved at all. So I would rather have loved and lost. Um, if you never experience love, I feel like you're missing out on so much. There, unless you don't want it at all. But I feel like there's so much good in it, even though it can be like devastating, heartbreaking, like send you into these deep spiral like depressions. It is an amazing thing while you have it, and we take for granted that we have these feelings that we need to feel. Like you have to feel feelings, unless
Yeah,
you're like a Jeffrey Dahmer or things like that. But we are supposed to feel feelings, whether it's good or bad. And if we don't feel the bad, we'll never know how good it is. If we don't feel how good it is, we'll never appreciate like the bad times. And I always am a big person. You should appreciate the bad times because if you never had those bad times, the ups and the mountains that you climb, you're not going to appreciate those
agreed.
because once you get to the top of the mountain, it's like, okay, well, I'm here. And you're just going to be blank
I've done
face. I'm
all I
like, yeah. So, yeah, I would rather love and lose it. Same to you?
can. Yeah, I mean, for me, as you like talked about, I think for me it's just like kind of like, hey, I have never had a relationship that I can truly define as like a loving, like, hey, I am, this is my person, this is my soulmate, and having that relationship experience to the point where it's like, oh, I haven't experienced it. But again, it's kind of like, how do I navigate that kind of self-love then at that point? Like I said, I'm married to my job, I'm married to my charity and philanthropic work, I'm married to the social media aspect of life. So but yeah, I haven't been in that experience both sides of that coin. And so I think that that's where I value relationships with friends like yourself. So like, hey, I'm gonna learn from experience. Like we've had text conversations like I met a guy. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, Sonny's got the juicy deets and like figured out. And I'm like, I'm intrigued by yours. I'm like, I think at the end of the day, we all are kind of cheerleaders and fans for what love looks like for ourselves. But then we see it in other people and other relationships. I'm like, man, I'm so excited for you. What's going on? How is it? We always kind of hope for that kind of like, I don't know, cherry on top of a relationship type of situation. Just like, hey, I've got this whole thing of ice cream and the sundae is great. But then when I get to the cherry on top, like, what does that look like for me in terms of love? Is it purely like, okay, I just love seeing my partner's face every time I get up in the morning? Is it a kiss? Is it what? Is it sexual nature? I mean, it can be defined so many ways. But I think, I think we're cheerleaders of our own love, and then as cheerleaders for other people as well too.
Apparently, I'm supposed to wake up right now. But so there's a reason why I wore this shirt, and I showed it to you. The J
Yes.
Beebs. That's the second part of love is loving yourself. So what I want you to do, Sonny, and I know you do your 3 things. I want you to give me 3 things that you love about yourself.
Oh wow, such a loaded question. And I can talk about myself all day, but I won't. I'll try to keep it. Now, see, you're testing me with my own like good graces. I'm like,
That
this is
you the Instagram three things, and if you guys don't know, follow Sonny on. I will post his Instagram on our thing. You got to follow
ooh.
Sonny. He does three things every time. But now we're gonna make sure you do it. Three things that you love about yourself, Sonny, and I will give you my three things that I do.
Okay. I think that the first thing and most important is always leave people. Always leave people. How do I say it? Always leave people with a really kind of leave them like leaving the room better than it was, or that type of thing. I always leave people. I think for me, what I love is I always leave people with kind of a good ending. And
Mm,
what I mean by that is just kind of like leaving them with a good positive. Like, here's the phrase. I think my parents would be of the understanding that, hey, never go to bed angry at your partner. Right.
amen.
Like, and so what I love is like, even though I don't have a relationship, what I love most about myself is like making people feel good at the end of the day, whatever that interaction. Like in human resources, I deal with a bad situation with an associate or an employee. Hey, I want to make sure that they're leaving on a good note, whether that outcome was good, bad, right, wrong, ugly. uh, I love about myself that I care so deeply. I think that sounds very cliche, but I care about people a lot and I respect people a lot. And that there's always good in somebody and you've got to find it. And third, it's my karaoke singing is fantastic. No,
All right, give
um,
us sing some for us right now,
uh,
Sonny, on the
God,
spot.
the spot. Let's see. Wow, that you've challenged me, and I don't have my pitch right. Um, what can I sing? There's so many pieces of music. Uh,
You got to sing
I'll have
some
to get back to
Beebs.
you for part two.
Okay, we'll save that for part two then. All right,
Um,
so it was that the three? Was that three?
yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's three, right? I'm so ingrained into loving myself that I just kind of
you
like
do. And the
lost
funny
it.
thing is, I think everybody does love you too, because Sonny used to hop on the TikToks, and he still does, and meets everybody on there, brings the energy, and everybody just loves you. So that's why I know everybody loves you. So I want to make sure you love yourself, and I know you do. But I love to hear the three things. Those are amazing things about you, and you are such a quality person. That's what I love about you. That's why I felt like if I were to have a guess, you were going to be the first person to be on here. So three
Okay, we're gonna
things.
flip it. It's your turn. I need the Lofo's lounge deets. Like we're in the lounge, we're like chilling. I'm drinking chocolate milk this morning. I'm like, okay, Logan, what's yours? You gotta tell me.
All right, so three things that I would love about myself. I was actually not prepared to have this flipped on me, but yeah, as you see the shirts, three things that I love about myself um, is that so I made a promise. So I had a best friend that passed away years and years
Mm,
ago. I think we talked about this briefly,
yeah.
but he was the one that did my tattoo. It was his first tattoo ever. I post about him on social media sometimes. So when he ended up losing his life, I made a promise to myself because I did not think he was happy that every single day I have to make at least one person smile. So I love that I have that ability to at least bring laughter, at least bring a smile to somebody's face every day. So that's going to be number one. Number two, I have such a caring soul for any and everybody. There's not somebody that I can walk into a room and just like not give attention to, not give love to. I have such an open heart, open hand policy, open door policy, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Um, that like gay, straight, black, white, whatever your culture, whatever your background is, there's no judgment. And then if you are going to judge that type of thing, you get kicked out of my lives, you get kicked out of my life, you get kicked out of my lounge. it's it's such a like a positive thing that I reciprocate and I bring into a room and or a lounge, so to speak. But that's two. That's two. The third thing that I love about myself is the what I've got going on, like the being vulnerable, being able to talk, because it took a lot to get to this point. So
Mhm.
a couple years ago, I would never be able to do this. I would never be able to be open, never be able to
Huh.
share things, and so it's something that I've learned to love. So if you were to have me sit on a podcast that who knows how many people will end up listening to this and go on live and talk to sometimes 5 people, sometimes you see like 100 of people in there. It's like,
Sure.
wow, like I have grown so much, and I will kind of tie that in there, but the growth that I've experienced too, I love that about myself. So there is my 3.
Nice. I'm going to wrap it up by saying, like, for me, on your comment of just you're part of the PVO crew, and I don't know if you know what PVO means, but
Do
I think
tell.
we should like start that for your lounge, and like you can claim it, but it's like positive vibes only crew, right? PVO crew is
Ooh,
like, you know,
write it
the
down.
people that come into your life and your lounge is like, hey, I'm all about if somebody walks into the room, like I think that's the thing that I get most about you, Logan, is number one, it's positive vibes only, and number two, you're not going to get judgment, you're not going to get conditions. Like I'm just going to treat you as like a respectful human being. I think that's what most people love about your lives and your work and your advocacy and activism within men's mental health and doing all things. So I think that's why I'm drawn. I mean, so the things that you know that you love about people and specifically yourself is what makes you great. Like so, you know, if you're part of the PVO crew, like hey, you're in Logan's Lounge. If not,
Positive
no
vibes
admission.
only. I love that, Sonny. We should see if that's trademarked and trademark that.
Hey, that's all. That's all. You can take my creative licensure. I owe nothing. So, but yeah, love it.
All right, so we are running at the 21 minutes. So I think we have a lot more that we could talk about. So I feel like we should do a part 2. Do you agree, Sonny?
Yeah, let's do it. Well, I'm ready for part two.
All right, so we are going to go ahead and end it right there. Sonny, I appreciate you for joining us on this Saturday morning, 9 a.m., bright and early. Um, we will stay tuned for part 2. Thank you guys for joining Lofo's Lounge. I almost said Sunny's Lounge. Lofo and Sunny's Lounge this Saturday morning. All things love, all things loving yourself. And we will see you guys for episode 2, possibly next week. Possibly
Word.
next week. Peace out, y'all.